That might have been the best one yet, Wilds. All things considered, that might have been your best addition yet.
Thanks, bud.
Time now for Under Duress. Every Thursday, Chris Broussard does a deep dive on which players have the most on the line heading into the weekend. Great slate of games to pick apart. All right, Broussard, which 5 players are under the most duress entering Week 5?
All right, Jenna, let's start with one of those great games. Kansas City, Buffalo. Nick, is it Mahomes? No. It is Josh Allen. All right, look, the Bills' offense has been phenomenal over the last 3 weeks. They've averaged 39 points a game, but not necessarily because of Josh Allen. He's been good, he's been solid, but he hasn't played up to last year's MVP runner-up standards. They haven't really needed it either. They played Washington, Miami, Houston. They can get by those teams. This weekend, a step up in competition at Kansas City. They're going to need him to match Mahomes, throw for throw, touchdown for touchdown. Is he up to the task? We'll see. Number 4, Derek Carr. It was all good just a week ago, and then the Chargers faced the Raiders, and all of a sudden Derek Carr was mediocre. And to make matters worse, the Chargers defensive end, Joey Bosa, accused Carr of cowardice. He said, we knew when you hit him a few times, he gets shook. All right, he said that he was eventually curling up like a ball at the fear of getting hit. Carr even admitted those comments from Bosa got under his skin, and it brought to mind all this old talk about Carr being a little skittish in the pocket. So this weekend, he has got to put that myth to rest. All right, and no better time to do it than this weekend because they face Chicago, who, even though Nick says they have absolutely no chance of making the playoffs, they actually lead the league in sacks with 15. So Carr's going to get hit. Let's see how he handles it. All right, at number 3, Chase Young. All right, last year, Chase Young was the man, Defensive Rookie of the Year. There was talk that he might be Defensive Player of the Year going into this season. Well, guess what? After 4 games, Chase has 0 sacks and only 2 quarterback hits. Not good enough. And that's a big reason why Washington has dropped off from a top 5 defense last year to like 29th overall and 30th in points allowed. Now, this weekend, they got New Orleans and the sneaky MVP candidate, Jameis Winston. So he's going to have to come out there and resurrect his image and that defense and get Washington back on track. At number 2, Baker Mayfield. Now, you know, when you go on IG and start trying to hush your detractors, you know it's gotten bad. All right, Baker's coming off probably the worst game of his career. 45% completions, just really looked bad last week. And now he's got to come out. There's talk about, is he good enough? The Browns are 3-1, okay? So they're doing it kind of despite Baker. All right, they got weapons everywhere, and he's not producing. He's only got 2 touchdowns. Now also there's talk, of course, about a lucrative contract extension for Baker Mayfield. If he continues to be just average or pretty good at times, that contract extension could instead be a franchise tag or 2. All right, so there's a lot on the line for Baker. This week, he needs to come out and not only show that he can play at a higher level, but also that he can be on the same page with his most talented wide receiver, which is Odell Beckham Jr. So Baker is under duress. Now, number 1 may not be a surprise to anybody. It is our man, Big Ben Roethlisberger. All right, the bottom line is Ben is floundering, period. He's not playing well at all. He's got a nice receiving core. He's got a hot rookie running back in Najee Harris. And the last couple weeks, the offensive line is actually protecting him pretty well, but he still looks washed. All right, he looks every bit of 39 years old. The good news for him is that Coach Mike Tomlin has backed him and said, he's my guy, and I get it. You got Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins on the bench. Where you going? All right, you got to stick with Ben, but here's the deal. They got Denver, Seattle, and Green Bay coming up. That 1-3 could quickly become 1-6 or 2-5. And then the Steelers, who've never had a losing record, Nick, under Mike Tomlin, are in major danger of putting that blemish on Tomlin's record.
Yeah. That is 100% correct, and I want to do something here. Because unlike, Chris Broussard when it comes to my tiers, no matter how perfect and just every single layer, like a beautifully made cake, is ideal, Broussard finds a way to rip them apart. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like an inter-show rivalry. I've never quite understood. When something is excellent, I'm not afraid to say it. This is outstanding. I don't know that I would make one significant change here. I think Big Ben is the only thing I will just amplify Broussard's points, because I think these are the exact 5 guys I would pick. Big Ben, it's not only that the team's bad, he's bad, his coach is basically openly blowing kisses to opposing quarterbacks. Did you guys see Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers? The little love fest this weekend? Yeah. A little wink, a little smile, a little I'm gonna shoot you a DM, how are you doing? I mean, they are, hey man, Big Ben's like, I'm still here. And Tomlin's like, yeah, but not for much longer. And that young man with that glorious hair of his can be my quarterback next year. So I think Big Ben's feeling it from all angles. You're absolutely right on Baker. Washington's defense has been one of the biggest disappointments of the season. Heineke has played well. If you would have gone into this year saying you were going to get that level of play out of Heineke, and you would say, wow, well, Washington should absolutely be competing for the division title or a playoff berth. And I know they have 2 wins, but the defense has been wildly disappointing. I agree with you on Carr. Players around the league don't respect him. Like, that's just clearly obvious. Like, he's a quarterback that gets mocked in a way most quarterbacks don't. And folks are going to argue about Josh Allen because they've outscored their opponents 118-21 the last 3 weeks. They're 3-1, all of that. And we'll talk more about this later, but I want to show America something on Josh Allen. This is from the start of last year to right now, and this is why I say he's a guy you can't trust. That's his passer rating by game. There is no consistency with him. His highs are super high, his lows are super low. So that is last year's regular season, the playoffs, and this year. So what you see this year is 2 bad games, 1 superb game against Washington, and then an okay game this past week against Houston. Doesn't really matter because they blanked them 40-0, so he didn't have to do much. But yeah, Josh Allen's going to have to be outstanding against Kansas City. The only, it's not even an addition I would make is squeezed in there if we're going to expand it to 6, Jameis Winston. And here's why. I know 8 touchdowns, 2 picks.
He's sneaky.
The Saints are 2-2. I almost wonder, Broussard, if Jameis has throttled it back too much. If the fear of making the mistake has made Jameis to where he's not taking big plays. Because he is, aside from the 1 game, he's played clean games. I understand that. But there have been some deep shots available that Jameis isn't taking. They're letting, by the way, the Saints are letting Taysom Hill come in to throw a deep shot, even though he's never been good at that, and Jameis is far better. So I just wonder, when Jameis saw some of his snaps going to Taysom, the offense, they lose to the Giants, all of that, I do wonder how much pressure's on him to try to open it up a little bit more. But that's a small edit. Otherwise, I think the list is outstanding.
Well, first of all, thank you, Nick, for the love. I know you're trying to soften me up for next week's tiers, but I get it.
No,
but yes, I appreciate it. Winston, I think that's a good point about Winston maybe trying to be overly cautious. Now, I don't think they're calling a ton of stuff for him downfield. Some of that's the game plan. But you are right. Sure. When it is available, he still hasn't attacked it. So hopefully he comes out of that. He's going to have to come out of that. They're fortunate to be 2-2 because obviously nobody thinks they would beat the Packers like that now, right? So he's got to come out of that if they're going to make the playoffs, as I've predicted. Wilds? Any more love? Petunias, flowers, roses?
I've got one. I think it's a wonderful list. I just want to add one, and it's personal for me, and that's my guy, Jimmy G. And as a fellow member of the Handsome Men's Club, when Jimmy G is in pain, I am in pain too. The walls are closing in. From all angles, Jimmy G is under attack. And it's not just because his calf is hurt. He didn't practice yesterday. He might not play against the Cardinals. This goes back to the old Tom Brady and Seth Wickersham's book, Whereas in Seth Wickersham's book said Brady wanted to go to the 49ers. They didn't want him. And then everyone's like, oh, that's what you were talking about on the shop when you said, oh, you're sticking with that blank blank. So that's Jimmy G. Jimmy's like, geez, that was like last year. I'm still getting banged for this. Then let's go to Chicago. Justin Fields gets the nod. So now all the rookie quarterbacks are starting. Trevor's starting. Zach Wilson's starting. The great Mac Jones is starting. Now Justin's starting. You got to look around like, that means Trey Lance is going to start. And they're playing the Cardinals, the undefeated Cardinals, which was going to be, Broussard, a great time for Jimmy G to say, hey, remember Jimmy G might not put up the gaudiest numbers except when it comes to the win column. But if he's not playing in this game and Kyler wins, then I think the 49ers brass would be like, he played okay. If he plays a little bit, is he the worst quarterback in our division now? Like, yeah, probably. Maybe we just pull the plug and go with Trey Lance. So Jimmy G, I'm very nervous, Broussard. That's why I think he is under duress from all angles.
Well, I didn't consider Jimmy G because he wasn't playing this weekend, but you make great points. And here's another thing I'm going to throw out at you, Wilds. And I don't know, he may end up being the starter. They still are playing for something. Obviously, they want to make the playoffs. So if Trey really looks bad, they might throw Jimmy G back in there. But here's the thing, Wilds. We all know he's moving on next year, right? And if I'm a team in need of a quarterback, I'm fine with Jimmy G, right? I think he'd have suitors. But the problem is, who's